next with the court. Is counsel ready to proceed? Please, let's continue. Mr. Phillips, you were about ready to call your next witness. Please proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Is this on file? Thank you. And please call your next witness, Mr. Phillips. Thank you, Your Honor. I now call Ms. Sheila Marie Temple to the stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God? I do. Please state your full name and spell it for the record. Sheila Marie Temple, T-E-M-P-L-E. How old are you, Sheila? 17. Sheila, where do you live at the present time? With my parents at 9804 Oak Crest Drive, Davenport, Iowa. Are you a student at the present time? Yes, I am a senior at Lincoln High School. Sheila, do you have a job? Yes, I work for my father's company, Empire Moving and Storage. All right. Please tell the court your father's occupation. He owns the company. What type of moving company is this? Oh, they move anything that is portable in homes and offices. Sheila, please tell the court what happened on the evening of April 17, 1990. Okay. I was helping my dad at Empire when I heard this noise in the back office, like footsteps or something moving. Did you think someone was present who shouldn't be there? Objection. Your Honor, counsel is asking for a conclusion from the witness. Objection sustained. Sheila, what happened next? I started to get up to go get my dad when this man comes out of the back office and stood between me and the door. Can you describe this man? He was about 6 feet tall, black hair and a beard. What happened then? He started coming toward me. Did he say anything? Yes, he said, "Don't scream and I won't hurt you." Your Honor, at this time I would like to enter into evidence the tape of this conversation between Ms. Temple and the defendant. Any objection, Mrs. Delaney? No objection, Your Honor. The People's Exhibit number 11 is entered into evidence. Proceed, Mr. Phillips. Let's try that one. Is counsel ready to proceed? Please, let's continue. Mr. Phillips, you were about ready to call your next witness. Please proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Is this on file? Thank you. Please call your next witness, Mr. Phillips. Thank you, Your Honor. I now call Ms. Sheila Marie Temple to the stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God? I do. Please state your full name and spell it for the record. Sheila Marie Temple, T-E-M-P-L-E. How old are you, Sheila? 17. Sheila, where do you live at the present time? With my parents at 9804 Oak Crest Drive, Davenport, Iowa. Are you a student at the present time? Yes, I am a senior at Lincoln High School. And Sheila, do you have a job? Yes, I work for my father's company, Empire Moving and Storage. All right. Please tell the court your father's occupation. He owns the company. What type of moving company is this? Oh, they move anything that is portable in homes and offices. Sheila, please tell the court what happened on the evening of April 17, 1990. Okay. I was helping my dad at Empire when I heard this noise in the back office, like footsteps or something moving. Did you think someone was present who shouldn't be there? Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is asking for a conclusion from the witness. Objection sustained. Sheila, what happened next? I started to get up to go get my dad when this man comes out of the back office and stood between me and the door. Can you describe this man? He was about 6 feet tall, black hair and a beard. What happened then? He started coming toward me. Did he say anything? Yes, he said, "Don't scream and I won't hurt you." Your Honor, at this time I would like to enter into evidence the tape of this conversation between Ms. Temple and the defendant. Any objection, Mrs. Delaney? No objection, Your Honor. People's Exhibit number 11 is entered into evidence. Proceed, Mr. Phillips. Okay, one more. Is counsel ready to proceed? Please, let's continue. Mr. Phillips, you were about ready to call your next witness. Please proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Is this on file? Thank you, Your Honor. Please call your next witness, Mr. Phillips. Thank you, Your Honor. I now call Ms. Sheila Marie Temple to the stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please state your full name and spell it for the record. Sheila Marie Temple, T-E-M-P-L-E. How old are you, Sheila? 17. Sheila, where do you live at the present time? With my parents at 9804 Oak Crest Drive, Davenport, Iowa. Are you a student at the present time? Yes, I am a senior at Lincoln High School. Sheila, do you have a job? Yes, I work for my father's company, Empire Moving and Storage. All right, please tell the court your father's occupation. He owns a company. What type of moving company is this? Oh, they move anything that is portable in homes and offices. Sheila, please tell the court what happened on the evening of April 17, 1990. Okay, I was helping my dad at Empire when I heard this noise in the back office like footsteps or something moving. Indeed, you think someone was present who shouldn't be there? Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is asking for a conclusion from the witness. Objection sustained. Sheila, what happened next? I started to get up to go get my dad when this man comes out of the back office and stood between me and the door. Can you describe this man? He was about 5 feet, no, 6 feet tall, black hair and a beard. What happened then? He started coming toward me. Did he say anything? Yes, he said, don't scream and I won't hurt you. Your Honor, at this time I would like to enter into evidence a tape of this conversation between Ms. Temple and the defendant. Any objection, Your Honor? People's Exhibit number 11 is entered into evidence. Proceed, Mr. Phillips. 200 for voice for 15 minutes. Cross by plaintiff's attorney. Ready? Mr. Forbes, you of course know nothing about the events that preceded Mr. Plum's going up on that roof. No, sir. But you heard a lot of shots before that, you stated? Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, you know nothing about Mr. Plum's firing at the officers in an alley off Duncan Street. Do you, sir? Objection. That is not a proven fact. Sustained. All right. You don't know anything about his activities on that evening prior to the time you saw him on that roof? No, sir. Now, you said you arrived when it was about half over. How did you make that estimate? Because I heard the noise for about 10 minutes before I came out. For about 10 minutes, about that. And how many shots did you hear during the course of that 10 minutes? I'd say about 6 shots. You didn't hear any more than that. It could have been more, but about 6 to the best of your recollection? Right. Now, other witnesses who have testified described many shots emanating from all different sources, that is, coming from policemen and all over the place, but you said you only heard 6 shots. That's all I heard. Who was doing the shooting when you arrived? Well, the one I seen shoot was Willis, who was standing. Officer Willis? Right. Was anyone else shooting? I heard 2 shots. I don't know if it was an officer around coming over the roof on Lombard Street or not. You don't know where they came from? Not really. Now, before you arrived here today, did you have occasion to discuss your testimony with any parties to this case? I didn't get here until a couple of minutes ago. Oh, and did you discuss it with anyone in the neighborhood? No, sir, you did not. Isn't it a fact that you sat down with Mrs. Hunt, Mr. Plum's aunt, and talked your testimony over with her in every detail to the point of seeing 20 policemen, to the point of hearing the words, "Don't shoot, I'm coming down, sir"? Anyone ever use those words around you aside from the defendant, as you allege on that night? Just Plum, just Mr. Plum, right. You never talked with anyone about this until you came here today? No, never did. I talked to them after it first happened that night. You talked to Mr. Plum? No, we was around there talking. Well, who did you talk to? It was Kelvin and all of us standing around there. All of you standing around? About 2 minutes before I was arrested. That is, Kelvin and Michael Grady was there too. I didn't see him. You didn't see him, but you all stood around and were talking about what you had seen. We just stood around and talked about what we had seen. Getting your story straight? Objection, Your Honor. That is a conclusion. Sustained. Now, after that night and before you came here today, who did you tell about what you had seen on that evening? I don't know. I guess a lot of people. Well, did you talk to Mr. Plum's lawyer? Yeah, I believe I... Oh, you have? Now, you have talked to somebody about what you've seen? Now, Mr. Forbes, I asked you first if you had spoken to anybody about what you saw after that night and before you came to court today, and you said that no, you hadn't. I thought you meant discussing it or something. Have you discussed it with anybody? I just told him what I seen, the facts, what happened up there. But you don't consider that a discussion or conversation? All right, so I All right, sir. Approximately how many people were standing around after Mr. Plum was taken to the hospital? I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea. There was a lot of people, that's all I know. All these people here today? No, not all of them, no, sir. Some people back there were standing around, right. Some people seated in the courtroom today? Yes. Were also there? Yes. In the same position you were? Right. And saw what happened? Yes, sir. They did? No, they didn't see what happened. They got there, so they didn't see what happened? If, Your Honor, please, I don't want to object to the question, except what I think. It is a proper question, but I think he ought to have a proper opportunity to answer without the state's attorney putting words in his mouth. All right. He has answered, Your Honor. Go ahead. Ask your next question. Did you see Mrs. Hunt, Mr. Plum's aunt, that night? I probably seen her, but I don't remember. Well, try and recall. Did you see her that evening? Not that I can remember. Did you see her while all this was going on? No, sir. You didn't see her then? No, sir. Well, she would have been standing in Duncan Street. Did you see her standing there? I said there was a lot of people out there that night. Well, according to her testimony, she was standing right near the house where she lived. That is at 2114. There was a lot of people standing near that house. Right. A lot of people, even while the shooting was going on. Right. And despite the fact the police were trying to keep the area clear, I guess they were still there. In fact, there were a lot of civilians right around the house, weren't there? As far as I know. Approximately how many people would you say? I don't know, I couldn't say. And a lot of those people were friends of Mr. Plum's. Isn't that right? Objection, unless he knows who everybody was. If he knows, Your Honor, he lives in the neighborhood. If he knows, go ahead, sir. They all know him. I don't know if that makes them friends. Are you a friend of his? Not a close friend. I see him. I say hi when I see him. You just say hi, too? Did you ever go out with him socially? Years ago, but not lately I haven't. I don't see that much of him. But you were a friend of his at one time? Right. You are not on bad terms today, are you? No, sir. Did you discuss your testimony with any of these people sitting back there in the courtroom, sir? No, sir. Did not? No. Mr. Forbes, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Right. Of what were you convicted, sir? Unauthorized use, assault. What else? That's all. Isn't it a fact, car tampering, auto tampering? Right. Isn't it a fact that in August, you were convicted of larceny of an auto and sentenced to 6 months in the Maryland Correctional Institute, sir? That's unauthorized use, isn't it? I thought you said tampering. Well, he said unauthorized use. I'm sorry. Were you ever convicted of tampering with an auto? Right, I am on probation for that. You say you are on probation now? Right. And of what else were you convicted, sir? Assault, unauthorized use. Anything else? Just 3 unauthorized uses, 1 assault and 1 car tampering, that's all. You ever convicted of disorderly conduct? Yeah. Objection, whether he was or not, it would not go to moral turpitude, Your Honor. The state's attorney knows this is not admissible to impeach a witness. It goes to credibility, Your Honor. All right, I will sustain the objection. Now, it is your testimony that it was Officer Willis who shot the defendant, and Officer Willis was standing in Duncan Street at the time he shot him. Is that what I understand correctly? Right. He wasn't up on the roof at the time this shooting occurred. Now, we are talking about the shot that felled the defendant, that brought him down. That was the one that was standing in the alley, Willis. He was standing in the alley, a little blonde-headed officer. He wasn't up the ladder at the time the shots occurred. No, sir. Are you sure of that? When I seen him, he was standing in the alley. I don't know if he did any more shooting after he fell or not. Well, we are talking about the shot now that brought the defendant down. Are you sure he was standing in the alley at that time? Right. That would be the alley here on Duncan Street? Right. There by his house. It crosses over Duncan. And your testimony is that he was standing there when the shot was fired, that dropped the defendant, and he was not in fact coming up a ladder behind the house in pursuit of the defendant. There wasn't no ladder behind the house at all. Well, could you see that from where you were standing, sir? No. No further questions, but that's all. You just testified that you say there was no ladder behind the house. I mean to change that. And this happened in back of the house. What happened in back of the house where all this was happening, you know? On the side, it is catty corner. It sits right on the alley, catty corner, and you can see the back and the side. What you are saying is, from your vantage point, you can see both the alley and the front of Duncan Street, right there where we were standing. Did you observe a ladder in the alley? Can you see this diagram? Yes, sir. Do you see it now? Right, all right. Now, this has Lombard Street on it. This is Duncan Street. This is the alley. This is where Mr. Plum was on the roof, right? Where were you situated? Right there, catty corner from his house. Right there? Over there on the corner, right. Up here? Yes, sir. Is that right? And you can see the side and so you can see down here, right, indicating to the west on No Name Alley, and you can see the side of the house indicating southward, south on Duncan Street, right? Right. You say you didn't see any ladder? No, sir. Where was Officer Willis? Standing right over there. Where? I was standing catty corner from him. Right. And right down from there on the other corner. Which way? Down this way. This way? Right. Where? Here? Yes, sir. Right here? Yes, sir. That is where Officer Willis was? Right. And you are sure that is his name, the officer who was standing there. The officer who was standing there. You are sure his name was Officer Willis? I didn't know his name at the time. I heard it afterwards. You heard afterwards that that officer's name was Willis? Right. Have you ever actually met Officer Willis? No, sir. All right. I have no further questions. No further questions. All right. Mr. Forbes, you can step down. Do not discuss your testimony with anyone until the case has been concluded. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. I call Mr. Gregory Hill. State your name and address. Gregory Hill III, 215 North Castle Street. Mr. Hill, I want to call your attention to the early morning hours of May the 24th, 1969, and ask if you happen to be in the vicinity of Duncan and Lombard Streets. Yes, I was. All right. Now, did anything unusual occur there that night? Yes, around 2 o'clock I was at my mother's house. Where is that? She lives at 15 South Duncan Street. 15 South Duncan? All right. And would you now describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and His Honor and ourselves exactly what you saw and what you heard there that night? Well, I was in my mother's house and I heard a commotion. So I came outside and I went towards Boyer Street. And I observed, how did you go towards Boyer Street? It is north of Lombard Street. How did you walk up there? Well, I came out of my mother's house and went towards north where Boyer Street and Duncan Street meets. All right. And I observed Ronald and Ronald and his wife Debbie running out of Boyer Street coming onto Duncan. And he was chasing them with a pistol. So they ran down Duncan Street south. And after that, he went on back up Boyer Street. Who do you mean? Mr. Lindbergh. Would that be Mr. Lindbergh Hunt? Yes. He was chasing them where? He was chasing them from Boyer Street back down to Duncan Street. And you say he had a pistol? Do you know what kind of pistol? Could you tell? All I could say, it was pretty big. It was a pretty big pistol. And did he fire the pistol at any time? Not at that time that I didn't hear it, you know. Well, continue. Well, after that, I went on back in the house, and then I was awakened. I wasn't awakened. I heard another commotion. So when I came outside, I observed the policemen, you know, looking up in the air with their pistols, you know, pointing. Well, one policeman I guess it was about 5 or 6. 5 or 6 policemen. And where were they located? They were in Duncan Street. Was there anyone else in Duncan Street? Oh, there were a whole lot of people, you know, standing around. Well, what were these policemen doing? They were looking towards the rooftop. Now, they were looking towards the rooftop. Was there anything in their hands? Yeah, they had pistols, and what were they doing? Well, continue. Now, they were looking towards the rooftop. Yes, they was. And what did you observe after you saw them looking towards the rooftop? Well, I observed Ronald. He was on top of the roof running, and by the time I observed him, he was leaping from one roof to this other roof to where the small alley is. He was leaping from there to there, and they started firing, and he ran down towards the end of the roof, and he leaped over to his aunt's house. He jumped from one roof to the other, over to his aunt's house, and then he was hit by one bullet. At that time, he fell. So he was hollering for his aunt to help him, to let him in, So the police hollered up to him, to give himself up and everything. And so he said, he held up his hands and he said he would give up, like that. Well, let me ask you, was this before or after he was felled by a bullet? And that was before. He was, first he was shot and then he fell and then he got up and he held up his hands, that he gave up because he was already hit, he said, and he hollered for his aunt to help him. And so during that time, while he was holding up his hands, he said he gave up and he was shot again. Now, I don't know whether it was from behind or from the front, but at that split second that he was hit from behind, I could see, officers coming from behind him, on that roof. Where were you? Where was your vantage point at this time? Well, from that point, I was down to my brother's house, who lives in the same block. I was on top of at the top of his steps, looking up towards the roof. On Duncan Street? Yes, I was. About how far from Mr. Plum's home? I say it is about 7 doors. 7 doors? North or south? South. You were 7 doors south? You were actually on, I think he lives somewhere around about 20 or either 21 South Duncan. Starts with March in the court, and then we're going into direct by defense. People versus Atkinson. Mr. Atkinson is in the hall, Your Honor. Mrs. Delaney, I believe, has not arrived as yet. And the people are ready, Your Honor. Are you ready on Atkinson? Yes, Your Honor. I am sorry. I left at 7:45. Very well, we will proceed. Will you state your appearances for the record? Christina Delaney, appearing for Carl Atkinson, who is present in court. Wayne B. Phillips, appearing for the record, who are ready. Very well, proceed. Your Honor, before we commence the motion under section 789.9, I would like to have counsel specify the evidence she seeks to suppress. That is contained in counts 1, 4, and 7 in the complaint on file herein. Are you referring to the indictment, ma'am? Yes, that's right. And you are referring to all evidence introduced at the time of the grand jury hearing. Is that correct? Let's see. On behalf of Atkinson, all evidence excluding that evidence having to do with count 8 of the indictment. On behalf of Cassidy, Your Honor, all evidence including that contained in count 8 of the indictment. Fine, Your Honor. The people have an affidavit in support of a petition for search warrant and a return on said search warrant number 79411. We would like it marked People's Exhibit 15, and I request that number so we may have some continuity in numbers. Marked what? 15. Be received on this motion and marked People's 15. It already bears the tag, Your Honor. I am handing it to the bailiff. I would like to add to the indicated evidence that I wish to suppress in that it is not only all evidence presented to the grand jury, but all evidence within the allegations of counts 1, 4, and 6 of the indictment on file herein, and also in addition including count 8 for the defendant Cassidy, Your Honor. Very well, the record will so show. And at this time, before we proceed, I would like to, for the record, indicate that our motion was made pursuant to 7893.9 of the State Penal Code and is made for 7892 and 3 as may be applicable for the purpose of traversing the warrant in this case. And very well, the record will so show. Are we ready to go? Now, the people have nothing further at this time. At this time, Your Honor, I would move to exclude all witnesses. Any objection? No objection, save one witness who is my investigating officer and who has been with me throughout this case, and that is Detective Edward Madigan, Madigan, Wyoming State Police, Laramie Substation, who is seated to my left at the council table. Motion is granted. You may have your investigating officer stay. All witnesses in the case are to remain outside the courtroom. Do not discuss your testimony before or after being called as a witness. I will call Officer Winchell if he is present. You do solemnly swear the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God? I do. Please be seated at the stand and state your full name for the record. Andrew I. Winchell, Winchell. Officer Winchell, on January 18, 1990, what was your business or occupation? I was a deputy sheriff employed by the state of Wyoming, then and there at that time assigned to the plainclothes detail. And on that date, on January 18, 1990, did you have occasion to go to 1030 Flowerdale Road? Yes, ma'am, I did. Were you in possession of any information before you went to 1030 Flowerdale Road that would indicate to you any unlawful activity taking place at that location? I am referring to your first visit that day, not specifically, no ma'am. And did you know Carl Atkinson prior to going to 1030 Flowerdale Road on January 19, 1990? Yes ma'am. How long had you known Mr. Atkinson? I would say approximately 7 or 8 years. And did you know him in a professional capacity? I withdraw that question. Well, now that is a hard question to answer with a yes or no. I would have to qualify my answer with the court's permission. All right, I have arrested Mr. Atkinson in the past for other violations. I considered Mr. Atkinson a friend. There has been no animosity as far as Mr. Atkinson and I was concerned. We were on friendly terms to discuss different things. One more time. People versus Atkinson. Mr. Atkinson is in the hall, Your Honor. Mrs. Delaney, I believe, has not arrived as yet. And the people are ready, Your Honor. Are you ready on Atkinson? Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry. I left at 7:45. Very well. We will proceed. Will you state your appearances for the record? Christina Delaney appearing for Carl Atkinson, who is present in the court. Wayne V. Phillips appearing for the people who are ready. Very well, proceed. Your Honor, before we commence the motion under section 789.9, I would like to have counsel specify the evidence she seeks to suppress. Now that is contained in counts 1, 4, and 7 in the complaint on file herein. Are you referring to the indictment, ma'am? Yes, that's right. And